6B, resolutions to call and set dates for special recall election. Who wants to lead this one off?
Hey, we get George to lead off into that or.
Dustin.
Go right over to Dustin.
Well, you have two forms of resolution, and my apologies, this did not make the agenda packet. Just kind of a tight turnaround with the Candy's Elections Office giving us the certification and then putting together this form. So you see there's some highlights there where we need input from the board and Georgiana for resolution number.
On the table and the example back there, the resolution number will be
Oh, it's on there.
2016
Oh, I have
19.
it. Okay. And then the other highlights relate to the date for setting the special election, which, as you can see, is not less than 88 nor more than 125 days from today. And George, that is December 18th through January 24th, that window of time.
I can express the county staff fully respects that it's your decision, but that later in January, the better for them.
The difference between the two forms of resolution before you came out of a request from, I believe, Director or maybe perhaps even Candy's office suggested it as an option. There's a legal process where you can shift from your standard voting practice, go to the polling place, or you have a mail-in ballot, depending on you, the voter's choice, to where it's an all-mail mail-in ballot. So one of the resolutions has that you're designating an all-mail-in ballot for this special election. This is one of those unique provisions in California law where it makes you frustrated because you can't really tell exactly what is intended. There's some just straight out conflicting provisions, and there's other ambiguity. So I can't definitively tell you what types of strings are attached to if you wanted to exercise this option. On one end of the spectrum, it could be that all of your future elections will be by mail-in ballot, and the next time we have a regular election, which would be November of 2018, there would have to be a special designation on that ballot to the voters. Shall we continue with this all mail-in process, yes or no? And then the voters would then have the choice of either continuing or discontinuing the practice. But the emphasis there is kind of you as directors lose control over your elections. It becomes subject to the vote of the people at that time. The other end of the spectrum, and again,
Can I back you up just?
Sure.
Because I didn't quite understand that. Are you saying that if we selected an all-mail ballot option now, that we could do that with a vote of the board, then that would happen in this special election? And should we have another recall that gets started in February, and we get to like August next year, and it passes, and we're going to establish another special recall election, that must be a mail-in ballot. Okay.
that's one end of the spectrum of interpretation, yes. I haven't presented a different interpretation.
And continuing on then, when we get to a regular, normal scheduled election, November 2018, that is going to be an all mail-in ballot again?
With a yes or no vote of whether you shall continue.
But that's the far end of the spectrum.
Yes, so there's another interpretation where you can, this is a one-off. You can do this special election as a mail-in ballot, and then you don't have to do it again. You don't have to put it, and so I think because the statutes, there's no cases interpreting it, there's no assistance in the legislative history, where you land on that spectrum is really just gonna be what Q County Elections says they'll process. We talked with Candy's office. I think why we were asked to look at this as a potential option was the thought that it may save the district some money. They thought that it may save a little bit of money, but she couldn't quantify it, and she didn't think it'd be a lot, if anything.
No polling places?
Right,
That doesn't seem.
I think it's because, they're same number of folks counting, same number of ink, and pages on the ballot, postage, et cetera, and the cost of opening up polling places, there's not a lot of cost there. There's volunteers and,
I thought they got paid something.
I'm not the expert on this, so that's why we called them. So, it's presented as an option here, and the resolutions are essentially identical except for that one item.
Would we have to add something to the mail-in one to say that this is a one-time only thing?
We did talk with Candy's office about whether she would, I had a question about whether they would even allow an all mail-in ballot for a special election as opposed to a regular election, and they said that they would.
Did they have an interpretation on if they would continue with that or continue on?
Yeah, must continue.
I did not ask.
Well, personally, I'm interested in getting the opinion of all the people in Paradise, and being that it would be January, to have people come out for a one-item vote, is far from unlikely. I understand the mentality of the recall petition committee, as to why they did it the way they did it. But I'd like to see an actual true vote of not just 3,000 people, that signs something, that there's no guarantee even those 3,000 people will come out to vote. And more likely, they're not going to come out to vote in the middle of January for one special item. So, a sure percentage of them would though. But by doing a mail-in ballot, then we might get a little truer sense of the feelings of the people of Paradise. So,
I think so. I think we should encourage everybody to vote and make it as easy as possible. So I would recommend we go with the all-mail ballot option. My personal opinion.
Director Kellogg, do you have any comments?
No. Is there any way we can reverse this where it's no, it's first?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Can you reverse it? It says yes, no. Can you reverse it and say no, yes?
No, that's verbatim from how the elections.
Thank you for correcting the spelling of my name.
I'm just trying to, I wanted to change both of those, but I know we can do that either.
So you refrain from doing that.
Right.
Do you have any comments, Director Jacobs?
No.
Director Duncan?
I agree with you that I think the mailing would be better, but I don't want us to get into a box where from then on, everything.
Well, that's one end of the spectrum to one end of the spectrum, and it's hard to say where they're going to land in that spectrum.
Right.
I would assume.
I hope this doesn't get back to Candy, but I think they've been pretty lax. I mean, we're not asking them questions and they're going to their code book. They're kind of just saying what seems fair and reasonable, and so my guess would be if you wanted to switch back to the more typical process, we'll do this option for a special, go back to the typical process for a general election, that they would permit you to do that. And I can't promise that, but that would be my
Without having
guess.
to vote on it?
It's probably easier than for them.
Yes.
Yeah, because I can see where that could end up costing the district even more money.
Does it actually state that somewhere in the code that if you elect to do all mail-in, that it will be
Like you said, it's
mail-in from that point
interpretation.
forward, even for a standard election?
Well, that's where you get into, one statute says something along those lines, and another statute says the opposite.
That's the gray area the attorneys love.
That's where you need judges to decide which statute's right.
And two sets of attorneys, or more than two sets. So when
Yeah.
you're all in an argument,
exciting day, I guess, huh?
Director Hunt, was there anything else you wanted to say at this point?
No.
Anybody from the public would like to comment on item 6B? There.
Very lucky from Paradise. I believe that people should be required to go to the polls to exercise their franchise.
Mail-in ballots tend to make it too easy to make mistakes, maybe miscount, maybe have fraudulent activities. I think people, if they want to vote, if they're willing to vote, if they're committed to the project, if they're committed to the issue, they should show up to the polls physically and mark their ballot. That's all I got to say.
I don't think there's enough people out there that actually know the issue out there personally. Maybe if had a
Are they
chance
willing to
read it.
vote and vote for it?
That's the mystery here of what can happen. It's hard to get them to vote for a president, so I don't know if they'll be so apt to do it for a recall. Dan?
Dan Winton. I happen to agree with that gentleman. You have a lot of elderly people in the community who are used to a routine of voting. And I think if you try to throw in a wrench somewhere, it might actually mess it up and would probably be less accurate than more accurate. But do keep in mind that a significant number of people in Paradise already get a voting anyway. I mean, a mail-out item anyway. So. But those that aren't accustomed to a mail voting system are used to going to a poll. So I think I agree with this gentleman.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public? Mark?
Just as a point of reference, the vector control had a special election recently. That's the most recent one I can remember. And that was a by mail election. And at the time, I was told that it was done at way too safe cost to the vector control district. Another point to keep in mind is that in Butte County, in our district here for PID, over 60% of the voters already vote by mail. And elderly people tend to skew that even higher because they're oftentimes homebound and don't get out that much. So anyway.
I look at it as the same reason why we always hear we have to move the meetings too early, we have meetings too late, we have them on Monday, we have them on Tuesday.
Sure.
There's always something, maybe this way, they'll actually have a chance to think it over, find out the facts, maybe see that some of the details that were presented are not actually fact.
Thank you, Warren Harvey. I'd just like to say, it's okay, speaking on 1 of 10, I'd just like to say it's great if you want to do it by mail. I think the advantage is for us, if you're talking about the chess game we were talking about a little bit ago, but I'm not sure that the general public, I'm not sure it's worth the risk of following up the vote in the future to change it to mail-in. But if you want to do it, as 1 of the 10, I think it's great for our side. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Anybody else in the public like to speak to this item? Not seeing any, I'm going to close the public participation part of item 6B. On there, directors, is there public comment?
I think we can handle a lot better, because we got
Would you like to
people
comment on?
in the mail-in for sure.
I'm curious about one thing. If you have a regular voting, can you also use a mail-in ballot, or is it one or the other?
All man.
You have to sign up for it.
You have to sign up.
In a regular situation, you have to sign up.
So if we left it as a normal, then the people who wanted to mail in are already registered that way, and they'd all automatically be able to do that?
Yes.
No, they have to request.
Apparently 60% of the people in Butte County are.
If you're a permanent absentee, you are a permanent absentee voter.
That's
You can also apply for a one-time by mail if you're going to be in the hospital or something like that.
No, what I'm saying is, typically now, if you're a mail-in, you get your stuff in the mail and you vote. Is that the way it would be here now? If we left it as a standard special election, but left them with both options? Okay.
concerns me, actually, Bill, thank you for bringing that up. It's the exact part that concerns me. There's been enough talk, I think, really, behind closed doors. Okay,
Well, remind me again what the early date is and the,
January 24th would be. a
December
Tuesday.
18th through January 24th.
And the 24th is a Tuesday, and Tuesday's a good day. So I think we ought to.
and that's it, you can pick any day in between that. You can pick Christmas Day.
Well, if you pick the mail-in, all-mail ballot option, I would assume you've got to set it on a day that the post office is open.
How about if we don't? Then we could actually have, instead, because we always have.
It's probably, there's probably some rule out there that it would be extended to the next non-holiday.
And if it wasn't, then you're gonna be paying overtime and holiday pay for all of those workers.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it costs just got more.
Okay.
Dustin, are you sure that the standard laws don't apply in terms of having to be the Tuesday after the first Monday for an election day? You
Yes.
can go anywhere in there?
And that's another area of ambiguity, to be honest with you. There's one statute that says your all mail-in elections have to be on these dates, and it's not the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. It's, there's a date in May, there's a date in August, there's a date in September, I believe. But our window doesn't fit in any of those.
Okay.
So then there's another statute that says the same thing, but then it has a clause, or any other date. So, you tell me which one does.
Thank you.
But that's where I come back to, we talked to Candy about that, and she said, no, special election, we could do that.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, that's right. And they want us to go as far out as possible. Right. I move we adopt resolution 2016-19 and use the one where it's a mail-in only and set the date for January the 24th, 2017.